You're watching E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to do more discussion of story elements in the Godzilla vs. Kong novel that were not in the movie. Now, yesterday I know I did a different style. I kind of want to mix it up, do normal like this, and then go back to do the other style. And this one, we're going to talk about Godzilla being a hero. Now, there is an opening to the story that does not exist in the movie. And boy, if it was in the movie, probably would have pleased a lot of people. And this opening is basically going back 3 years. It goes back to the past, shortly after King of the Monsters, where Godzilla basically goes on like this world tour. He's basically ensuring that all the Titans are back where they belong, and those that are kind of going rogue, meaning not necessarily bowing down to him, are put in check. And also some organizations doing some shady things to try and capture other Titans. And that's the case in this story element. Now, the book opens with basically a ragtag group of Russians who have overtaken a destroyed Monarch facility. Some of them actually worked at Monarch as contractors and were part of this facility when everything went to crap. Basically, when all the Titans woke up, this Monarch facility was destroyed by the Titan known as the Kraken, or I have the name here, bear with me. It's Nakia, something like that. Nakika, Titanus Nakika, also known as the Kraken, which is a squid-like Titan that we have yet to see on screen, but we have seen its presence on the Monarch map on the website, and we have read about it very briefly in lore. Well, in this part of the story, the very opening of the book, basically Simmons comes to these Russians to try and buy the Titan. Now, in the very beginning, he comes in disguised as, or not disguised, but he comes in with a different alias named Mr. Rosales, which I thought was a more fitting name for the character, as he came off to me as Spanish, and Simmons is not exactly a Spanish name, but whatever the case may be. So the deal is he's going to buy this Titan, and in return will continuously fund this ragtag group that is basically, since the world has gone to crap, has taken over this oil rig and the territory surrounding it. And while they're making profits, they want to increase their profits by not having to deal with militaries, like, you know, buying off or hiring mercenaries to protect them. And they want continuous funding. They basically want to make this sale to get a chunk of money, continuous funding, so they can actually get into some sort of legit work, because they're very much aware that once the world goes back to normal, they're not going to be able to hold their position. So they want to make whatever money they can. So they make a deal with Rosales, or Simmons, to sell him the Kraken. So Simmons arrives on the oil rig, and they take him below to show him the kaiju, which they have under a huge net. And the kaiju was basically found by Monarch originally, wrapped around a submarine. And they talk about how it was worshipped in a European island nation, and it was called or referred to as the Kraken. And so he's going to buy this. Obviously, we all know why. We find out that the Kraken can actually change its sex. It can become male or female or both at the same time at any given moment, which obviously is very interesting to Simmons, because obviously reproduction. You grab this Titan, and then you can make more Titans from this Titan. You know, this Titan can continuously just give birth in and onto itself. So as they're talking and making their deal, Godzilla arrives to actually break up the party. And what's interesting is in the book, it talks about how the Kraken actually called out to Godzilla for help. And I thought that was a very interesting dynamic, something that, you know, we know the monsters can communicate through certain level of radio frequencies, but never did any of us think, or at least I didn't think, that one could call another for help. And in this case, Godzilla, you know, and Godzilla does arrive, and he does free the Kraken. And this whole battle ensues where this group is also trying to capture Godzilla while retaining the Kraken. And they foolishly think that they can. And next thing you know, some Monarch jets arrive. Godzilla destroys them. He frees the Kraken. He destroys the oil rig. He kills the people on the rig. Now, this story is also, from what I understand, in Godzilla Dominion. So it's a story element that's also in the comic book. So I haven't seen how that played out yet there, but I'm pretty much sure it's the same. And I thought the story was an interesting opening. When I first read the book, I was like, wow, this is great. And then we find out 3 years later, after losing the opportunity to buy this Titan, we catch up with Simmons back at his main office in Florida, and he's in his office and he's looking out the window at a certain, obviously some people who are sort of protesting, environmentalists protesting, the things he does in his company, that sort of thing. And this is actually where he meets Alan Jonah, and this is where we find out that somehow Jonah has not one but two Ghidorah heads. Now, this is a bit of, not a bit, but this is a quite significant plot hole because we know how he got one head, but it's completely ignored how he got the second. All I know is that when he does meet Simmons in his office 3 years after the events that took place off of Russia, Simmons is definitely interested, obviously, in buying the Ghidorah head, but Jonah tells him he has two. And it's very interesting. The dialogue between both of them is really, really good. And at the end of it, basically Simmons is like, all right, well, how much do you want for them? He says, I'm going to give you this account. You put the amount of money you think these two things are worth. And if it's high enough, you got them. If not, I have other options. He doesn't even give him a price. He just says, you're basically telling him, you better come correct or you're not getting anything. And of course, as we know in the movie, he obviously does obtain them. So it's a very interesting opening because not only do you have a great action sequence involving Godzilla right in the offset, but then you finally get the answer as to where Alan Jonah is. This is another story element. This, again, we talked about Ren Serizawa the other day when I did the video and how that's something they definitely should have kept in the movie. And in terms of this sequence, from the opening of these ragtag mercenaries controlling this oil rig during all the chaos going on around the world and capturing a Titan and then Godzilla, I understand if you want to cut that part out, but why cut out the part where right after that scene, we go 3 years later to Simmons' office where he finally meets Alan Jonah to obtain the Ghidorah heads. There's a whole great dialogue, man. Great dialogue. And we also find out, not only is in the book, do we find out that Alan Jonah, obviously, he sold the Ghidorah heads directly to Simmons, but we also find out that Alan Jonah and his eco-terrorists are still at large. They've never been captured. They were not killed. Even after Godzilla vs. Kong, they are still around. So if nothing else, I would have kept that story element. Now, in terms of how he got the second Ghidorah head, I mean, we can speculate a million times over, but we all know that there was only one head left. We do know that there was a battle with Ghidorah many, many, many years ago, and maybe he found another head. I don't know. But the way it works is that the skull that we see in Godzilla vs. Kong, the one that Ren Serizawa is one skull, and then the other one is in Mechagodzilla, and that's how the two communicate. So, very interesting story. I mean, great story elements, except for that big one gaping hole of how he got two Ghidorah heads instead of one. Unfortunately, that's something we're never going to know, at least up to this point, depending on where these novels go, where the graphic novels go, whether or not we get another movie where Alan Jonah gets introduced. But it was this very, very interesting thing that not only the opening sequence being very action-packed with Godzilla showing up, but the idea that he showed up to save Nakika, to save the Kraken from the humans, and even then be so convicted in doing it that he actually destroyed Monarch and the Monarch planes that came and the facility. One of the earlier times you could see that he actually directly destroyed human-related arsenal or even land, or in this case, an oil rig, because most times he would just ignore it. Even if the jets were firing at him, he just ignores them, But in this case, no, he destroyed them. He destroyed everything there. Simmons was able to get away, obviously, on a helicopter. Everybody on the oil rig got completely wiped out. The Kraken was saved, and then Godzilla moved on. And then it was shortly after this that I think Godzilla finally rested, because before this, he had two other battles. He had a battle against Scala, and he had a battle against Anunuk. I have a hard time pronouncing that name. This is the monster that is in the graphic novel, who fought Behemoth and actually broke one of Behemoth's tusks. All this happens while Godzilla is on this world tour to put everybody in check, all the Titans in check, before going to sleep, and only being awoken years later by the tampering of Simmons and Serizawa with Ghidorah and trying to make Mechagodzilla. So good stuff in the story, but there's more to be told. We have An Untold Story with Nathan Lind, and we're going to talk about that this week as well. Apparently, we learned in the movie that Nathan had a brother and there was a great travesty. Well, that whole travesty plays out in the book in its entirety. So very, very cool. We'll talk more about that this week, as well as Mark Russell's extended role in the book, and then other story elements will come. So lots to talk about. Great story stuff in the book. And just remember, if you don't want any spoilers, just don't watch those videos when I do them. But we'll talk more about that as well as other things. We have obviously our normal streams. We do have a special stream coming Wednesday night. This is going to be dedicated to introducing my book to some people here who might be interested. We're going to read the first 3 chapters, primarily to give people an introduction, but also for people who bought the book prior to that, you get to get a first read on the new chapter in the book that wasn't included in the original. So, but anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the story element that's in the book that is not in the movie. And I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. Until next time, this is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. Click here to watch more content. Don't forget to leave a comment. Also, make sure you like and share this video. If you want to know when the next video is up, click the notification bell next to the subscribe button. And most of all, make sure to click that subscribe button for regular content.